So hello and welcome to another episode of Inspired Good Fat Life. And I want to just take a shout out to the world of remote. My guest, Helen Wilson, is joining us from um, Sedona, where she's taking a conference, and I am here in Brighton, Michigan. And so here we go. So, Helen, just tell us about Wilson Wellness and the work that you do, which is so out of the box, but so effective, right?
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, so you and I met. I want to say about 12 years ago, and I was just so inspired by the work that you were doing then, and it's just kind of like been on steroids since then. So first off, what is osteopathic manual medicine?
That is a beautiful question. I have my little notes here, so if you see me looking to make sure I cover the points, I think that when people think of osteopathy, they think of bones. And I jokingly always say they should have called it something different because it's so much more. So with osteopathy, we look at the body as a functioning whole. We look at it on many different levels. And we use four primary treatment protocols. The first one is the obvious, structural, the physical, what you see every day. The second, which is where most of us live, is the fluidic. We call them protocol one, structural, protocol two, fluidic. And that's all the fluids of the body. And I tell people, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you see the structure, but you don't realize you're over 80% fluid, over 80% liquid. And I jokingly will say to people, it's all connected, otherwise you'd be a puddle on the floor.
Yeah, and when you hear that, or somebody, I'll do some meditations and they'll go like, feel the fluids moving in your body. And it's just like, oh my gosh, they have to be, right? It's such an interesting foreign kind of a idea. But of course, those fluids are moving around all the time, right?
Absolutely. The other protocol, protocol three, is the electromagnetic field, and I think people think that's woo-woo, and it's not. Protocol four is woo-woo. Protocol three, electromagnetic field, people don't realize we have an electromagnetic field around our entire body, and there are actually cardiologists who are physioelectrical cardiologists who go back to school for an additional 3 years post residency and post board certification to get advanced training to treat the heart, which has its own electromagnetic frequency and produces its own electric field. And so most of us live in that fluidic and electromagnetic field area. We, of course, address the structural. And then the fourth protocol, which I call the woo-woo, is the morphinogenic. And that'll be when the patient gets off the table and looks at me and goes, what just happened? And that's when we elicit change and we can have an effect at the cellular level, which can be really profound and incredible. So that's the four protocols. Osteopathy seeks to help the body to find its true health. And when I look at a patient, when they come in, when I look at it, I see their beauty, I see their health. And even if we feel uncomfortable, we don't feel well, we have pain, there is a part of us that knows our true health, that health that connects all of us. There's a health that is beyond you or me, beyond your health or my health. It's the health that we all connect into and that perfection that we came from. And if we can help someone in their body to realign with that health, true healing starts to take place. And I think that in this world of sick care, health care is not the norm. And that's what we seek to provide is health care.
And so, I mean, that's fascinating, right? The
Hmm.
idea that we all have this like perfect health, and it's if I'm hearing you correctly, it's there for us.
Yes.
It's kind of like we were born into this, and this perfect health is there for us. And it's been my experience, I guess, is that we continually do things to um, make take it away, right? Sabotage, is that
It's
the
part
right
of
word?
being human. I mean, we're
Yeah.
human, or I tell people, I'm a human body mechanic, and they're like, "What do you mean? You get one body, one vehicle to move through life in. How many cars, by the time you're our age, how many cars have we had? We take it in for an oil change, we take it in for brake pads, we take it in for a tune-up, and then we replace it. You don't get to replace this body. It's just we get one body. And of course it's going to have wear and tear. We're human, that's the nature. So the quest is to take as good a care of the body as we can and to remember that if you don't take care of it, it may not work as well. I can look at someone who is 16-year-old and see, oh my gosh, if they don't change their alignment, they're going to end up with a hip replacement or knee replacements. You can see these
Wow.
patterns early on, but they can be changed. And you can absolutely change the course of someone's life by treating them with early intervention. That is my humble belief.
I'm hearing this from you, as a mid-60s, and so is there hope for me? I mean,
Absolutely. Well, but absolutely, people come into me and they'll have, have like I'm thinking of this one patient of mine. He's in his late 60s. He came in on crutches the first time with herniated bulging discs, and he was one of my, really beautiful quick successes. He walked out without his crutches. It was pretty amazing, and the reason is because he takes care of himself. He exercises. He eats reasonably well. Don't get me wrong. He has his food stuff too. But when you are already getting massage and chiropractic and cranial sacral and you exercise and you eat reasonably well, you set yourself up to be able to have what I call the magic treatments where it happens more quickly. But it's part of the self-care routine. When you take care of yourself, your body lasts longer. And you'll hear me say this a million times, it's not how long you live, it's how you live long.
mm, that's a great thing. I remember my grandpa, he was 90, just a few weeks short of 90 when he passed, and I remember him just being so frustrated, like, because his knees weren't working, and it was just like, it's just like, "They're just worn out, Gramps," That's just kind of the way it is, and I always used, and he took care of himself in a lot of ways, but then maybe not
Hmm.
so much in other ways, and he was a chiropractor, right?
Hmm.
Always ate really well and stuff, but sometimes your body just wears out, and
Yes.
I guess I took it to heart, like, it's important that we pay attention to the things that we can do proactively, right?
Yes.
To take care of these precious body parts.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, when people come in, they're coming for pain management, but what we really want is to find the cause and hopefully change it so that they don't need to be continually mitigating the pain, but the pain actually releases. And one of the so I'm constantly in training right now. I'm at a pediatrics to postgraduate biodynamics course for DOs in the US and worldwide. There's people from all over the world in my class. But I've
Wow.
also been recently training in something called matrix repatterning. We use these biometric scanners, and we have imaging they have imaging that shows that using these with our proper training, they have been able to elicit bone healing and growth. And they've had patients be able to have rods removed from a broken bone that hadn't healed in a year and a half, having the bone heal. They've had people cancel surgeries because an ACL started to heal, which is, not, to me, that's a miracle. I'm just blown away. So that's my most recent certification that I'm pursuing. And there's so many modalities out there. And one of the things I talk to people about is that I want to be a part of your healing team. That when you have a practitioner or a doctor that says, I'm the only one, you don't need anybody else, I find it suspect. I call it the jealous boyfriend doctor syndrome. And that we need pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes a patient comes to me and I look at them, I look at their imaging, I say, you know what? Thank goodness for allopathic medicine because I'm going to help set you up to have the best outcome that I can help you have for surgery because you're having surgery. This is like I
Right.
don't know what else is going to happen. And so, there's all the pieces of the puzzle that work together to help someone get to where they need to be.
I love that, and I have, and as I've gotten older, I notice I don't say old, older, right? It's a
Hmm.
process.
Hmm.
It is more and more, I don't know, what's the word? Um, important. That's not the right word, but it's more and more, um, just important, I guess. It needs to be the priority. Taking care of our precious body parts needs to be a priority.
Absolutely.
Because just like, I'm at Zoom home because I've been sick in bed with the flu and a temperature, and I don't want to and get spread germs around Johnny and the podcast studio. But, just that when not being able to do things that we take for granted, it's like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, everything shifts.
It
And
becomes the
so
most important thing in the world is your health when you don't have it, right?
it absolutely is, and so and I'm sitting here from a space of, I know this will get better, but we all have people in our world where, they're it's gonna be a tougher road for them to get better, and so
Absolutely.
tell me about, why you're an osteopath. What does that mean to
That
you?
That's interesting. Why am I in it? Well, I will tell you that my quest for health began at an early age. My mother was ill, and the stress of it, I started to have migraines, and I had cranial sacral therapy and rolfing, and my migraines went away. I was intrigued. My background was yogic. I have an undergrad in international relations, a master's in international business. I speak Spanish and French. I lived overseas, and I met this woman who helped me with my migraines. It was pretty incredible, and it tied in with my love for yoga and yoga therapy. And fast forward, I moved to Nova Scotia to where I had a yoga studio and a bed and breakfast, and was starting a software company with my ex-husband. And my daughter, who is now 22, was not neat and pigeon-toed. I had taken her to American Osteopaths. I had been living in the DC area and did not get resolution. So somebody there said, take her to the osteopath. I took her to the osteopath because I said, well, I've been. They said, no, it's so different. This woman, in 30 minutes, my daughter's legs went straight and she slept through the night after 16 months. As anyone who's a parent will know, that is life defining. And I said to her, what have you done? Like, how did you do this? And she gave me some layperson's answer. I said, I really want more info. And she said, well, I've been going to school in Toronto. This school is one of two schools in the world that is a 5 year postgraduate program. And they are doing a campus here in Halifax where we had moved, and it starts in September. This is July. She said, but you could do the prerequisites and get in the next class in 2 years. So I went back to school and did prerequisites for 2 years. I cried a lot. And I started the program in 2004, and I literally cried through the whole first semester. I was like, what have I done? And I never looked back. We say that osteopathy doesn't pick you, you don't pick it, it picks you.
It
So
picks you.
osteopathy
Yeah.
picked me. Yes. And I do it
Well,
because I see it transform lives. I mean, it's just it's just incredible how you can, when other things aren't working, when I get a failure to thrive baby that comes in or a baby with latch issues. I'll tell you an interesting case. This is a very dramatic situation. A little baby, he had not regained his birth weight. He was under 6 pounds. And his parents contacted me. They knew me, and somebody said, "Why don't you take him down?" They're like, "Oh my gosh." Well, they contacted me. I said, "How about I come to you? When your baby's that tiny, I want to come to you." And he could not drink his mom's breast milk. He was having blood in his feces. He was not growing. He was just not feeling good at all. Well, what happened is he had swallowed 17 cc's of meconium, so his stomach had dropped. We call it a toast state. It was way below his belly button. This little tiny guy, and to my hands, it was pulling his esophagus, his kidneys, and his liver out of place. So when he drank and his mother gave him the bottle, you could feel this pull, pull, pull to the left. So I went to work bringing the stomach back into position, putting the esophagus back, making sure the kidneys were aligned, the liver with my hands. And this little guy fell asleep in my hands, and his mom called me or texted me, I forget which, but she let me know that he fell asleep. He slept for 3 hours, and when he woke up, he doubled his food intake and never looked back. And I happened to run in at a
it
family
gives me
camp,
chills.
ironically, to the pediatrician who had been working with him at Beaumont. It was just very coincidental, who happened to be Canadian, happened to have worked with Canadian osteopaths, but in Dubai. And when we started talking, we realized that we had worked on the same patient. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you're the Canuck that put that little baby's stomach back in place." And we had a good laugh, but allopathic medicine had done what it could, and there was no place else for them to go with him. And osteopathic manual practice was the solution. It was beautiful. Now I think he's 8 or 9 years old. Pretty cool
Wow.
story.
That's a beautiful story, and I know you also work with people that, have gotten a terminal diagnosis.
When sometimes I get these interesting cases where people will send someone to me, and of course I can offer them manual therapy, but I feel like they come because they're looking for hope. And we talk about at our team meetings, why do people come to Wilson Wellness? Why do they come to us? And they come because they are looking for hope. They're looking for a different alternative. A lot of time we're their last hope. You know, they've exhausted so many things, and they come because they're looking for health care, not just sick care. And I think a lot of times in our society, we're looking to mitigate symptoms in sick care versus health care. And I'll get a patient that'll come to me and, they'll walk in and just start crying, like literally just start crying. I was like, you came to the right place. Take a deep breath, cry, and do what you need to, and then tell me what's going on. And though I've had patients come in, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal pancreatic cancer. I'm told I have 4 to 6 months to live. And I was like, that's a big, big thing to hear. And I'll say to them, are you open to a different perspective? What about the idea that you could die with the diagnosis instead of the diagnosis? And would you like to speak to someone who had the same diagnosis and is doing great? I have a friend and a patient who 11 years ago was given the same diagnosis, and she's retired now and having the good life. And her cancer, they said, is completely gone. The imaging shows it's not there at all. Pretty incredible. I have another patient with leukemia diagnosis and cancer diagnosis who's also, they've said it's completely in remission. And that's been 8 or 9 years. And they had told her she only had, I think 6 or 8 months to live. So it's incredible that if you can have a perspective that there's something else
I was gonna
possible.
say, I just gonna say that it's perspective, and
Hmm.
then somebody who can help shift the perspective with protocol that moves you forward.
Absolutely. And there's so many options out there and so many pieces. And I tell people, I don't know what option's right for you. I can put you in the direction of people who have had success with people with similar conditions. I can even offer you to connect with someone who's had the same diagnosis, who's been successful in healing, and give you that chance. They'll say, it's not a cure. We're healed right now. We're in remission. We don't have the symptoms, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for quality of life and feeling good, right? Who doesn't want radiant health? That's our tagline. Let us offer you radiant health. When you hear
Radiant.
my story, I tell people I practice what I preach. I'm not just the regular healthcare provider who hasn't had her own health issues. And this, Sherri, that I had a traumatic brain injury 3 years ago. I was told I would never work full time again. I couldn't add and subtract. And I in the process of my quest to heal, I've reversed my Hashimoto's in that 2 years in a row. My blood work's beautiful. You can tell by speaking to me now that I'm cognitively pretty good most days. And this headset I'm wearing for this interview, I actually had to wear this for 2.5 years because of vestibular issues that I've been able to recover from. And osteopathy is a big piece of that, as well as functional medicine, neurology. And I think that's the beauty of integrative medicine and integrative health and wellness, is that you take the pieces and integrate them so that you can have true healing and true effect in that direction of health, of radiant health again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. So what would you suggest for somebody who's listening to this who just wants to feel better? Where do they start?
I will say that the absolute number one thing, and that's why I love your magazine and what you're talking, is food is the first medicine. Food is thy
Yay!
medicine. So when I talk about food as the answer, I tell people, for example, I have a patient he's a teenager. He has 3 of the 5 markers for celiac. So to him, he's like, oh, I'm not celiac. I can eat whatever I want. And I'm like, well, you have 3 of the 5 markers for celiac, which means you probably should never eat gluten again the rest of your life. And the reason you keep getting sick is because you're eating gluten. But that's a tall order for a 16 or 17-year-old to hear. So I tell people, start with simple things. If you know that you have a lot of congestion, start by trying an elimination of dairy and see how that does. Or take it a step further and go to an allergist and get tested and find out what foods, what environmental toxins you're sensitive to. And and then go from there. There's so many pieces of the puzzle. And if you have a lot of allergies, often it's because you have some autoimmune issues, and it could be leak to leaky gut syndrome. And there's some simple protocols that I was exposed to by a naturopath who I'm now friends with, that I'm also able to guide people in that direction, that can help heal the gut. And it's a simple protocol, using a liposomal pharmaceutical grade colostrum to heal. And there's so many incredible things out there that you just have to know about, right?
Right.
And dig deeper. But the first thing is eat more fresh fruits and vegetables.
And
Lots of
good
those. Make
fat.
sure you get, I was just saying, make sure you get good fat. When I look at like a plate of ideal food, a third good carbohydrates, a third good vegetables, a third protein, and a fat with it, whether it's coconut oil or avocado or it's fat that you're getting in the meats that you eat. And people are surprised that I'm a proponent of eating protein that includes animal products. They think I'm going to be vegan. And I have been vegan in the past. For me, it's not the ideal diet. I wish it was because personally I prefer it. But I eat fish and eggs as well. And there's beautiful fats in eggs. And I am,
Right.
just so you know, as for good fats, I'm hyperlipidemic. And if you don't know what that means, it means that I have a propensity towards cholesterol over 300. The way I
Mm,
eat, it's 130 to 150. I only had it when I ate dorm foods. The only time we found out that I'm hyperlipidemic because I've eaten pretty well my whole life because I know what works for me. So I
right.
tell people if you have high cholesterol, I eat eggs, I eat fats, and I eat a very clean diet though, and my cholesterol is 130 to 150.
Well, and so there's so much more to talk about. And I know you've got class to get to. And so if people are looking to find you, I'm assuming, Helen, that you would be, or I should say, Dr. Wilson, um, that you would be available for a phone consultation, so it doesn't matter where people are, they could get a hold of you and get a, set up
Absolutely.
on a protocol, and so we'll have all of that in the show notes, and I do need to just take a moment and shout out Good Fat Life, the magazine. If people are interested in knowing more, go to goodfatlife.com and check us out. We are right in the middle of finalizing our January issue, which I don't know. I just get so excited about each issue because, like to Helen's point, there's so many people doing so many cool things out there, and that's what we do at Good Fat Life is we are connectors, and it's just so much fun to hear people's stories and hear what's available. Right? Who knew? I know that you brought so many things. If you just want to take a minute and show some of the things that you've got to support. Yeah.
Absolutely. For pain management, PTSD, anxiety, ear acupuncture. I do a protocol called the National Acupuncture Detox Association's protocol. I offer seeds as well for people who, and I'll show you what the seeds look for people who don't want needles. These are an incredible resource for helping pain management in Swedish hospitals. There was a 20%, look at those little tiny seeds, they go in the ears, 20% reduction in pain med requests in the areas where, in the floors where they were able to offer acupuncture as an adjunct therapy. We also use this little device. It's called a Healy, and there's many, many programs that I run on it. And I put it on a patient's wrist just with a little cloth holder, and we can emit frequencies. There's info on this on my Facebook and my Instagram page. I have a little dog that I have worked on, and the mom had her son now has me treating the dog, his dog, who's in Buffalo, remotely with this, believe it or not, with good success. And then I will show you something else that's really cool. When patients come into the office, we always do the Healy. We always are using the microcurrents, but we also offer, if patients need it, one of the things that has helped patients of mine with insomnia is structured water. So I have this little, it's a PMF device that sends frequencies and changes the structure of the water that's good for 72 hours. And
Wow.
we can actually send you home with some water and then
I I
um,
love the water I get sent home with. It feels amazing.
also use devices for audio, visual, and Tesla coil entrainment to help the brain, whether you have brain fog, post-concussion trauma, dementia, cognitive impairment, memory issues. And I have a little, I think I probably easiest to show the picture of that right here. This is me wearing the stim field device. Let's see if I get it out. I'm trying to get it in the right position there. And we also have something called a Vielight. It makes you look like the Borg. There's a piece that goes in those. This helps. Oh, I'm trying to get it in the right place. I can't. I'll just hold it in front of me.
I
The
I could
this
yeah, I've
piece,
been able to see. There you
it
go.
has a
Yeah.
piece that goes in the nose that helps. It emits in far infrared rays that help heal the olfactory nerve. So people who have lost their sense of smell, whether it's from a car accident or it's post COVID, have had good success with this, along with me decompacting the ethmoid bone and behind the nose. So there's some really cool things I offer. This is just some of them.
Wow.
I do something called endonasal technique where I can put this tiny little balloon in the nose to release the turbinates and the sutures. That also helps with concussion trauma and loss of sense of smell. There's just a variety. We have an infrared sauna at the office. We do the stem field device for concussion, dementia, brain fog, also to help with ADHD. It helps with so many incredible aspects. It can help with enhancement of performance for athletes. And then the Violite, the one with the piece that goes up the nose, helps with chronic inflammation, encephalitic or brain inflammation and nervous system inflammation. And myself and my colleague Erin Rose, we offer osteopathic manual therapy. We offer matrix repatterning techniques. And we also have lymphatic drainage, a practitioner there named Simon Raphael. We have a reflexologist in the office who we call her our special sauce when we have someone who's a little extra, who needs a little something extra. Her name is Loretta Danforth. So we have quite a collection of things to help in the healing
A
process.
good process. Well, that's phenomenal, and, I look forward to hearing more and experiencing more. I thank you so much for being here today, Helen, and for getting up at the before the crack of dawn to so that we could have this conversation because it's just so important. I wanted to share you with the world, so with our good fat world.
Well, thank you, Sherri. It is such an honor. Since the moment I met you, I think it was back in 2009, I've just thought of you as such a blessing. You're just someone who brings good vibes and energy to the world, and I appreciate it.
Well, right back at you. So, all right, we'll go forth and live your good fat life.
Thank you. Wish you the
All right.
same.
All righty. Bye bye.